The first thing I remember is the mud. Cold. Thick. Swallowing the back of my blouse as I hit the ground. Someone gasped. Someone laughed, too quickly, too nervously. And somewhere above me, rain hammered down like applause I never asked for. I lay there, staring up at a sky the color of bruised steel, my daughter's white veil twisted in my fingers like evidence from a crime scene. My knees burned. My palms stung. But what hurt most was not the fall. It was the look on her face. Not shock. Not regret. Annoyance. As if I had spilled wine on the table instead of collapsing in front of an entire town. I pushed myself up slowly because dignity, when you're my age, is something you retrieve carefully, piece by piece. Mud slid down my sleeves. Phones hovered in the air like metal insects, blinking, recording, immortalizing the moment my own child shoved me aside. I did not cry. Not yet. Because before I could speak, before I could even catch my breath, a sound cut through the rain. Thud. Wood against stone. Once. Then again. My father's cane. The sound rippled outward, silencing everything. The whispers. The laughter. Even the rain seemed to hesitate. He stepped forward slowly, every movement deliberate, as if the ground itself needed to be reminded who it belonged to. He bent, offered me a handkerchief, clean, folded, waiting, and helped me to my feet as though this were not a rescue, but a restoration. Only then did he look at my daughter. And when he spoke, his voice did not rise. It didn't need to. What I see, he said calmly, is not a bride. The air tightened. It is a child who has forgotten what respect costs. If shame were lightning, it would have struck then. But shame does not always arrive with drama. Sometimes it creeps in quiet, permanent. That was the moment I knew something irreversible had begun. Earlier that day, before the rain, before the fall, before everything unraveled, I was sewing. My kitchen smelled like warm bread and starch, like all the years I had spent mending hems and mistakes. The veil lay across the table, pale and patient. My hands shook the way old trees do in the wind, but I stitched anyway. Slowly. Carefully. I whispered to myself the same thing I always did when the thread resisted. Haste unravels the heart. Across from me sat my daughter, radiant, restless, wrapped in the kind of impatience only weddings seem to create. She kept checking her reflection in the dark window, tapping her foot, sighing loudly as if my hands were intentionally wasting her life. "You're ruining it," she snapped suddenly. I blinked. "Ruining what, sweetheart?" "My day. You always do this. You make everything about your pace." She reached out and yanked the needle from my fingers. It slipped. The thread snapped. The needle hit the floor and skittered away, sharp and shining like a warning no one wanted to read. I looked up at her, stunned. Not angry, just wounded. "I'm only trying to help," I said quietly. She laughed. Not kindly. "You call this help? You meddle. You control. This wedding is mine. And no one, especially you, is going to interfere." That's when his mother laughed. From her throne-like chair near the doorway, dressed perfectly, lipstick sharp as a blade. "In our family," she said sweetly, "things are done properly. Without improvisation." Her eyes slid over me the way people look at furniture they plan to replace. I straightened my back. "In my family," I replied, "we do things with love." She smiled as if I'd proven her point. That was when my father tapped his cane for the first time. Just once. A warning. No one listened. And so the storm, patient, ancient, inevitable, kept gathering its strength. That night, as thunder rolled over the hills and the veil lay unfinished on a chair, I sat alone on the edge of my bed, listening to whispers I had avoided for too long. Stories about my daughter's fiancé, about debts, about things buried in a city far away. I told myself I should stay silent. I didn't. I knocked on her door, and everything after that only burned faster. The storm didn't break right away. It lingered, like gossip does. Like regret does. Like a truth waiting for the worst possible moment to show its face. That night, the air inside the house felt heavier than the clouds pressing down on the roof. Even the walls seemed to listen. I sat on the edge of my bed, the unfinished veil folded beside me like an accusation. My fingers still smelled faintly of starch and thread, but they wouldn't stop trembling. I told myself to sleep. I told myself she was grown. I told myself a mother can't save her child from every fall. But then I heard the whispers again, echoes of the afternoon, carried back to me through open windows and careless tongues. Stories don't knock politely. They seep in. A neighbor's voice at the fence. A passing comment at the market. A silence that lasted just a little too long when his name came up. Things about the man my daughter was about to marry. Things that didn't belong in a wedding album. Unpaid obligations. A child-shaped absence no one explained properly. Promises postponed so long they'd gone sour. I pressed my palms together and felt the familiar ache in my joints. The reminder that time does not wait for courage. If I stayed quiet and something happened later, I would never forgive myself. So I stood. The hallway was dark, lit only by a single bulb that flickered like it, too, was unsure about what was coming. I walked slowly, my slippers whispering against the floor, and stopped outside her room. Laughter drifted through the door. Tight, forced laughter. The sound of someone practicing happiness. I knocked. Once. Silence. Then the door swung open. She stood there in her half-fitted dress, glowing and furious all at once. Pride does that. It shines and burns at the same time. "What now?" she said. "Can't you see I'm busy?" "I won't take long," I said. My voice sounded smaller than I wanted it to. She rolled her eyes and turned back toward the mirror. "Make it quick." I stepped inside, closing the door gently behind me, as if volume alone could turn this into a disaster. I chose my words carefully, or at least I tried. "I've heard some things," I began. Her shoulders stiffened. "About him," I continued. "About his past. There are matters he hasn't resolved. People he's left behind." She spun around so fast the fabric flared. "Stop. I'm not trying to ruin anything," I said quickly. "I just want you to be careful. Some paths, once you step on them." She laughed. Loud. Sharp. Humorless. "Oh, let me guess," she said. "You heard it from someone who heard it from someone else who's jealous, because I'm marrying well." "That's not. You always do this," she snapped. "You don't trust happiness. You never have." My heart thudded painfully. "That's not true." "It is," she said. "You're bitter because you never had this. The dress. The attention. The life." The words hit harder than the push ever would. "I just want to protect you," I whispered. She slammed her hand down on the table. The sewing box tipped. Metal clattered across the floor. A small object spun in a perfect circle before coming to rest between us. The thimble. I stared at it, my chest tight. It felt ridiculous. How such a small thing could suddenly feel like a verdict. "Look at you," she said, turning rumors into prophecies. "You can't stand that I don't need you anymore." "I will always need you," I said softly. "Just not like this." She shook her head, eyes bright with unshed tears and something worse, certainty. "I don't want your warnings," she said. "I want support. Or silence." Silence. That word again. From the doorway, I felt a presence before I saw it. My father stood there, tall despite the years, his shadow stretching long across the floor. He didn't speak. He didn't interrupt. He simply watched. His cane tapped lightly once against the wood. Not a warning. A reminder. She turned back to the mirror, dismissing us both with the tilt of her chin. "My future is decided," she said. "Nothing you say will change it." I bent down and picked up the thimble, my fingers numb. When I placed it back in the box, it felt like sealing something away that I would never be able to retrieve. As I left the room, thunder growled low in the distance. The storm was no longer waiting. The next day bells rang. Bright. Loud. Defiant. They rang as if sound alone could scare away doubt. The church filled with flowers and perfume, and people pretending not to notice the sky darkening overhead. Everyone smiled. Everyone recorded. Everyone whispered. I sat in the front row, hands folded, my heart divided cleanly down the middle between hope and dread. When she walked down the aisle, she looked radiant, untouchable, certain. I wanted to believe her certainty could protect her. I was wrong. The thunder struck the moment the vows ended. Rain followed, violent and sudden, turning joy into chaos. Dresses soaked through. Shoes lost. Laughter edged with panic. That's when her veil caught. I saw it before she did. Instinct took over. Wait, I said, reaching out. Let me fix it before it tears. She turned, and the look in her eyes told me she had already decided. The shove came fast. Public. Final. And the ground rose to meet me like a memory I could never erase. The rain did not stop after I fell. It kept coming, as if the sky itself was insisting that no one forget what had just happened. Mud clung to my clothes. Water ran down my spine. And still, I said nothing. Silence can be many things. Fear. Weakness. Love. In my case, it was restraint. My father's hand steadied me as he helped me stand. His grip was firm, unshaking, the same hand that once taught me how to walk across fields without sinking. He pressed the clean handkerchief into my palm, and I noticed, absurdly, that it smelled faintly of cedar and thyme. Around us, the guests froze. Phones hovered midair. Smiles collapsed. Laughter died like a bad joke told too late. My daughter stood stiffly in her ruined perfection. Her dress splattered at the hem. Her face flushed with something that looked like triumph until it didn't. Her husband, no, not yet, not really, stood beside her saying nothing. A man can reveal himself most clearly when he chooses not to speak. And his mother? She adjusted her umbrella, as if the real inconvenience here was the weather. The music restarted eventually. It always does. People are very good at pretending disasters are temporary. They clinked glasses. They danced carefully, as if stepping around the truth. But something had already shifted. I felt it the way you feel an old injury just before the cold sets in. That night, long after the guests left and the mud dried into stains that would never fully come out, the bell rang. 3 times. Firm. Final. Everyone still in the hall turned toward the sound. My father stood by the old wooden table at the center of the room. The one that had survived floods, droughts, and arguments louder than this one. His cane rested against his leg. His face was calm in the way only men who have already decided something can be. No one asked why we were being called. Authority does not require explanation. We gathered. My daughter, mascara smudged, eyes sharp with defiance. Her husband, pale and restless. His mother, chin lifted, already offended. And me, still damp, still quiet, still standing. There were others too. Witnesses. Neighbors. People who understood that something irreversible was about to be said, and wanted to be able to say later that they had been there. My father reached into his coat. The envelope was old. Yellowed. Creased. Heavy in a way paper shouldn't be. He placed it on the table. The sound it made was soft. The effect was not. This night, he said slowly, will not end in disgrace. His eyes moved briefly to me. Just a flicker. But it was enough. Some decisions, he continued, are made long before the moment they are needed. My daughter laughed, short, incredulous. You're not seriously doing this now. His eyes didn't even find her. He nodded toward the man waiting near the wall. The lawyer. He stepped forward, clearing his throat, unfolding the papers with care. The kind of care you give to something that can still hurt people. As he read, the room grew colder. The property. The house. The condition. Words fell one by one, deliberate, undeniable. The house that had been promised. The future she'd imagined. All of it, conditional. Honor your mother. Publicly. Failed to do so, and the gift returned to me. After that, it would belong to no one in the family at all. Silence followed. Thick. Crushing. My daughter stood so abruptly her chair scraped across the floor. That's not fair, she shouted. You can't take it back. This is revenge. Her husband tried to calm her, murmuring something useless about timing and misunderstandings. His mother exploded next. Words sharp, practiced, accusing us of traps and manipulation and old-fashioned cruelty. My father raised his cane. It struck the floor once. The sound echoed like judgment. This is not revenge, he said. It is memory. He looked directly at my daughter for the first time that night. You did not stumble, he continued. You chose. And choices have weight. The lawyer folded the papers, voice steady as he confirmed what everyone already knew. The house was mine. Effective immediately. I felt nothing at first. No triumph. No satisfaction. Only a quiet, aching relief. My daughter collapsed into her chair, sobbing now, not angrily, not dramatically, but with the hollow sound of something breaking beyond repair. And still, the night was not finished with us. Because truth, once invited in, rarely arrives alone. 3 days passed. They didn't heal anything. They just let the truth ferment. The house felt wrong after the wedding. Too quiet, like a place that had witnessed a crime and was waiting for someone to confess. Wilted flowers slumped in corners. Mud stains darkened the floor like shadows that refused to move on. Neighbors slowed when they passed the gate, curiosity dressed up as concern. I kept moving, sweeping, folding, washing. Old habits are excellent armor. My daughter stayed inside, staring at her reflection as if the mirror might finally tell her how everything had gone wrong. Her wedding dress lay crumpled in the corner, no longer white, no longer sacred. Her husband paced like a trapped animal. His mother spoke in sharp whispers about conspiracies and betrayals, as if volume alone could rewrite reality. My father said little. He didn't need to. On the third morning, the air changed. I felt it before I saw anything. A tightening in my chest, the same instinct that once told me when storms were coming long before the clouds arrived. A figure appeared at the gate. A young woman. Simple dress. Straight spine. Eyes that didn't flinch. And beside her, holding her hand, was a little boy. He clutched a worn wooden top like it was a treasure. He stopped to examine a puddle, poking it with the toe of his shoe, utterly unimpressed by the tension vibrating through the yard. She asked for him by name. The sound of it froze everything. When he came outside and saw them, the color drained from his face so fast it was almost impressive. His mother stepped back. Just one step. But it was enough. The young woman spoke calmly, clearly, the way people do when they've already cried all the tears they're going to cry. "I'm not here to cause a scene," she said. "I'm here because silence has already done enough damage." She placed an envelope on the table. Not yellowed. Not ancient. Recent. Official. Final. The boy climbed onto a chair and started spinning his top on the tabletop, humming softly to himself, oblivious to the adult world imploding around him. The envelope contained proof. The kind that doesn't ask permission before ruining lives. My daughter sank into her chair as if gravity had suddenly doubled. I watched her carefully. This time there was no anger. Just collapse. Her husband tried to speak, excuses tumbling out in the wrong order. "It was before you. I was going to tell you. I didn't know how." The boy looked up at him then. Not accusing. Not angry. Just waiting. My father tapped his cane once. "A man," he said evenly, "is measured by what he takes responsibility for, not what he hides." I walked over to the child and knelt in front of him. He smelled like dust and sunshine. He smiled at me like we were already friends. "This house has room," I said gently, "for truth. And for you." His eyes lit up. Behind me, my daughter made a sound. Half sob, half breath, leaving a body that had run out of lies. The warning I had tried to give her had arrived on its own. Louder. Crueler. And still, life wasn't done collecting its debts. That night, my chest burned. At first I ignored it. Ide ignorat bursa. But by morning, the fever had claimed me. The fall. The rain. The cold. Everything I'd brushed aside because mothers are not allowed to rest, came back with interest. The doctor's words were soft but firm. I was to stay in bed. I laughed weakly. "I don't have time to be sick." My daughter stood frozen in the doorway. Her pride finally stripped down to fear. Night after night, she watched me struggle to breathe. Night after night, something inside her cracked. One afternoon, she came in holding a bowl of water and cloths, her hands shaking so badly she spilled half of it on the floor. "I thought you were invincible," she whispered. I wanted to joke, say something clever. Instead, I coughed until my vision blurred. She stayed. She brewed tea the wrong way, burned it, tried again. Apologies to the kettle. When she finally knelt beside my bed, her voice broke. I pushed you, she said. Into the mud. In front of everyone. Her tears fell into the tea. I don't know who I became. I took her hand. Weakly. But deliberately. Forgiveness doesn't always arrive with speeches. Sometimes it arrives with fever and silence, and a daughter, who finally sits down instead of running away. In the hallway, my father watched without entering. Even he understood. This lesson could not be taught with a cane. Morning arrived quietly. No bells. No rain. Just sunlight creeping through the window like it wasn't sure it was welcome yet. I woke to the sound of breathing, mind steady for the first time in days. My chest still ached, but the fire had retreated. Someone had opened the curtains a little. Someone had stayed. My daughter sat beside the bed, hair unbrushed, eyes red, holding a cup of tea she kept blowing on even after it had gone cold. She looked smaller like that. Less certain. More human. You're still here, she said, as if she had half expected the night to take me. So are you. I answered, my voice rough but present. She swallowed hard. I don't deserve what you gave me, she said. I smiled faintly. That's not how forgiveness works. She nodded, crying again but softer now. Not the kind of crying that demands attention. The kind that cleans something out. In the doorway, my father leaned on his cane, watching the light fall across the room. He said nothing. He didn't need to. The house began to change after that. Slowly. Painfully. Truth does not renovate quickly. My daughter went back to the community hall alone. No makeup. No explanations. She brought a broom. She swept the mud. Scrubbed the stains. Picked up what pride had shattered. When the neighbors gathered, she didn't beg. She worked. I have no excuse, she said simply. Only hands willing to fix what I broke. Silence followed. Then movement. A chair lifted. A table straightened. A door held open. Forgiveness is cautious, but it watches effort closely. Back at the house, life found new rhythms. The little boy ran through the courtyard, his laughter light enough to reach places grief had settled. My daughter watched him sometimes, quiet, thoughtful, not as a threat, but as a consequence she would have to grow into. My father rested more. He'd done what he came to do. One afternoon, when my strength had returned enough to sit at the table, I brought out the fabric I'd saved. Come here, I told my daughter. She sat beside me, awkward, uncertain. I placed the needle in her hand. This is how you fix a torn edge, I said. Slowly, without hiding the stitch. She watched carefully. Tried. Missed. Tried again. Outside, the boy's wooden top spun longer than before. My father slept in his chair, a faint smile on his lips. And in that moment, quiet, imperfect, honest, I understood something I wish I'd learned sooner. A home isn't built by weddings or wealth or promises spoken too loudly. It's built by what we're willing to repair. By who we refuse to abandon. By the stitches we leave visible, so no one forgets what it cost to hold everything together. The past doesn't sleep, but it can be mended. And this time, we did not rush the thread. Please click the subscribe button, like, share and comment. This will encourage me to make more interesting stories. Also, let's know where you are watching from. Thank you and see you in the next story.